But other companies that I was trying to apply to be a part of, they are really like that. Once they know that you are from Egypt, you're done. Thank you. Bye bye.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the One World Your Story podcast. It's me, Jamie, your host. And today, on the first day of December 2020, I am joined by one of my dear, dear friends, one of my favorite people in the world, Yousra, Saleh. Am I saying your last name right?
Right, correct.
Okay. Yousra and I used to work together, and I visited Yousra where she lives, which is in Cairo, well, New Cairo, Egypt, and where she still lives. And I cannot wait to speak to you today about remote work, remote culture, what it's like working for American companies as a non-American, etc. But is there anything else that you would like to add for yourself? Introduce yourself. What are you up to? Now's your time. Let's hear it, Yousra.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for the great introduction. We've had a great time working together at Power to Fly. Yeah, and I think you've covered everything. I just have a dog. If so, I love always mentioning that I have a dog because he's my small kid.
He's amazing. Her dog's name is Sultan.
Yes,
Meet him
means
you have your husband too, though. You're married.
Yeah, I'm married, but this is not as special as having a dog.
You won't tell Shaukat that you said that. No worries.
No. He will not take it personal. I'm just talking in general.
That is one thing that I've always loved about you, Yousra, is your honesty and transparency. So yeah, you're right. Shaukat, he probably knows already. You probably talk about it. So let's just get right into it then. And by the way, Yousra, I think that for context, it's important to know your age because I think it's interesting to know, okay, when did you really start working? When did you get married? What does life look like, for you? Because those cultural traditions might be different in terms of when people start doing different things. I don't know. So how old are you right now? Just for
Sure. I'm 28 right now.
28. Okay.
Yes. I've graduated from college 22, 23, something like that. I don't really remember.
Okay. Which is how old I was as well.
20. Exactly. Yeah. And after graduation, I, for 4 years, I wasn't doing what I want to do. I was trying to apply to work for companies, to do things, but I wasn't successful. I was always rejected. I don't know why, but all of them says that I'm a fresh grad and I have no experience, which is normal, but yeah.
What did you study in college, by the way? What's your degree in?
Political science.
Political science. Okay. And I don't know why anyone would say no to you either, because working with you, you're one of the most loyal, hardworking people that I've ever worked with, had the pleasure of working with, and you're really smart and very adaptable. So
thank you.
Not that this is a job interview or anything like that, but you are really special. Now, before we get into your trials and tribulations and then success in career, let's take a couple steps back. Is it typical? How many of your friends from high school or your brothers, did everyone go to university? Is that a normal track? Was that different for you as a woman to go to university? Talk to me about that and what it's like in Egypt and Cairo. Give us some context.
It's super normal to be in university. It's not special. Everyone.
For men and women.
Yes, for both. So the only thing that might make you not go to university might be financial standard or something like that. I do not have the money to afford universities, but we have local universities that are 100% free. But sometimes people prefer to work and get money instead of studying, so that might be the only barrier. But otherwise, it's really normal for Egyptian students, women and men, to be in university.
Okay, wonderful. And how about remote work and working as a woman, let's not even get into remote work yet. What are, and I say this because like in the US, okay, it's, I have less friends that are female that are the traditional like stay at home moms or not working so much. It's really common for women to like get a career and maybe be the breadwinner and the husband stay home. You know, that's shifting in the US. And, you know, you and I worked in diversity and inclusion. I know it's really important to you, but what's that like in Egypt, in Cairo, for women?
Okay, so in Egypt is different than Cairo. So Cairo is the
Okay.
most civilized city in Egypt. It's the capital. It's civilized. Most of the women work. If they do not work, then they are rich. They don't want to work, but otherwise they have the ability to go and apply for jobs. Then most of the times they get accepted and they work. So
Really similar to the US in that regard.
yes, in Cairo it's really similar. I don't want to talk about the other cities because I'm not sure, but I know that it's not common over there. Like, you know, having a woman work, it's not the most common thing.
So Cairo is
And
kind of its own world within the country of Egypt. Would you say that?
yes.
Okay. All
Mhm.
right. So for the context of this conversation, for anyone that's listening, we're talking about Cairo, which, and I was there, right? And in a lot of regard, it really feels like first world, totally like the same in the way that life is here in the US. And then in the life regard, it's really different as well. But yeah, and then the friends that I met of yours, everyone was working and doing their thing. So,
Mhm.
okay. But what kind of jobs do people typically get? Like, is you, are you like, is it common? Do you have any other friends that you know that are working for remotely for American companies? Like, what's typical?
0%. 0%. I'm the only one that I know who work remotely.
Okay. And I knew that, but I didn't want to give it away for anyone that was listening. But yeah,
So,
you are the outlier by far.
yeah, but let's talk before COVID because after COVID, my friends started to understand what I'm doing because before
Oh,
that, they
sure.
were like,
Everything changed this year.
yes, yes. So now most of the companies, most of the good companies in Egypt started to, to be remote just because of COVID and so on and so forth. But before COVID, my friends was like, "What are you doing at home? Are you working? Are you even making money? Are you volunteering somewhere on the internet?" You know.
So people
So
thought you were, for lack of better words, crazy or lying to them or what?
yes,
Like, explain that
yes,
to me a little bit more.
they underestimated what I'm doing. Like, what are you doing at home? You just need to go out, for a living or to go work for a company. This is not work, and I was actually making more money than anyone does.
Did you
So,
talk to them
but
about that? Did they know that?
no.
Why? Because, and I say that because you're saying to me, one of the questions that people were asking you, are you even making money? And you're saying everybody thought that you weren't actually working. Why wouldn't you just say, yeah, I'm making money, here's what I'm doing, and prove it to them? Why not?
I say I tell them that I make money, but I do not tell them that I make more money than they do. Just because I feel bad for them. They spend 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours in transportation every day. And Cairo, you came to Cairo, it sucks in terms of traffic. So, sometimes I feel bad for them. Like, I try to tell them, go apply for a remote work, it's better for you, but I do not go and tell them I'm staying at home in the comfort of my own bed or my own desk or my own pajamas and working and getting more money than you do.
Why
You
wouldn't
know,
you tell them that? That is the thing that would convince people. Why would you keep that a secret? Why would they believe you otherwise?
it's not a secret, but sometimes I do not want to hurt their feelings because I know getting a remote job is not as easy as it looks.
So it could feel like rather than you trying to inspire them to go find a remote job, it might to them feel like you're bragging or making them feel bad about what they're doing. Is that correct?
Exactly. And
Okay.
yes, and they will not be able easily to find a remote job, especially in the US and in the US companies. This is not an easy thing. If I
Well,
told you how I
yeah, as you
find,
had mentioned it in the beginning, which we'll talk about that process. I want to know that process.
it's
But
not as easy as it looks.
before we get there, I mean, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it already, right, Yousra?
Yes,
Um,
yes.
so what is a typical salary? And let's talk about what your job is. So you are, correct me if I'm wrong, an account executive now, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, so you're doing inside sales. For people that aren't familiar with the sales world and what those terms are, the account executive, Yousra, is selling a product or service to other companies, correct?
Exactly. And specifically to companies in the MENA region, in my region, and Europe.
What did you say? The MENA?
MENA region, like Middle East, North Africa.
Okay, Middle East, North Africa, MENA. So that's nice. You get to work on your time zone now. That's why you're
Yeah.
working on your time zone. Okay, it all makes sense. Yousra and I used to work off of Eastern Standard Time in the US. Okay, so what would the average salary be for an account executive working for a software company in Cairo?
Okay. After the commissions or just the basic salary?
Your OTE, right? Your base plus commission. What do you think the average would be
Okay. So if
for
they
an
are really
agent
good,
company in Cairo?
if they are great, if they are really good, if they are, doing a great job selling, then this might be $1,000 to $1,300 a month.
So let's say on the generous side, right? $30,000 a year. Excuse me, $20,000 a year because it's 12 months in a
Uh,
year.
yeah, something in that range, yes.
Between $15,000 and $20,000 for their annual salary. That's if you're doing a really good job in Cairo.
Yes.
You can't live on that for in a US salary. But what's okay, so that's on the high end. Let's call it $20,000 a year just for the sake of numbers. What's an average salary in Cairo in general? What does the average person make?
In general, that's below that.
Cairo.
Let's say like an average person, junior person, maybe around 300 $400 a month. Senior person starting from $500 a month and up to maybe $2,000 a month.
So you're doing really well if you're breaking $2,000 a month.
Yes.
You're doing average if you're making
You are a director. You are in a director level.
okay, and you are average at $300-400 a month, and you can survive in your city making.
Yes, yes, yeah. You'll have a great life actually. Not bad. Especially if they're like husband and a wife, both are working, both are generating revenue, So in that case, things will be better. But I think $2,000 a month in Egypt is great.
I mean, it's so crazy because context is everything. I mean, if that's a salary that you were making and you wanted to come even on vacation in the US, you'd have a hard time having any kind of money to spend. So, okay. I can
But
already.
let's sorry to interrupt you, but let's admit one thing. US is super expensive compared to any other country in the world. That's a fact.
Not compared to any other country, but we could compare it to living in Europe. Okay,
Europe.
that's comparable. They're the most, outrageously expensive. Or like New Zealand, it's not. It sucks.
Yeah.
It is not easy or cheap to live in the U.S. Period. End of subject. I mean, my rent, Yousra, is $1,400 a month.
Okay.
My rent. That doesn't account for food, clothes, or anything else. So it would be literally impossible to live here. But we can't compare because everything else is different in terms of cost.
Yes, it's a whole different life. Yes. Mm-hmm.
But the reality is, and somehow you knew, and I want to know how you ended up knowing and learning about that, the fact that you even could work remotely, because as you mentioned, everything changed this year, and remote work over the last couple of years has slowly been catching on, but I mean slowly. And you started working remotely 4 years ago. That was at the very beginning of this. I mean, you were cutting edge. How the heck did you even know that it was possible? And was it all motivated by wanting to make more money, or was it something different?
Yeah, so can you just say the last sentence again because you're breaking up a bit?
Yeah, it was. How did you know it was possible? And why did you want to do it? Was it about just making more money, or was it something else?
Yeah, so I didn't know that remote exists actually until after graduation, I've heard about a company from one of my friends, a company in Emirates, actually in Dubai. So this company wanted to hire people from Egypt.
How did you know somebody in Dubai?
Sorry?
How did you know somebody in Dubai?
She was my friend and she used to live in Dubai. And she met the owner, and the owner told her that he needs a couple of people to work remotely from Egypt because Egypt's salaries are less than Dubai salaries.
Oh, okay. So she's from Dubai but living in Egypt, and you met her.
Yeah, she is from Egypt but immigrated to Dubai.
Okay, so you knew her from home. She's in Dubai, and she meets at this company in Dubai, and they want remote workers. Okay,
Exactly.
got it.
Actually, this company basically wanted remote workers from Egypt just to pay them less. That was the whole point of hiring people remote at that time.
Which you and I know very well. There's plenty of companies that is still the reason why they hire remotely.
Yes.
American companies, at least I can say, sad but true.
Yeah, but there are some companies that never take remote as an excuse to pay less. Just to be fair, not all the companies do that, but most of the companies do that. But I know that some companies do not do that.
Totally. And that's changing now. But 4 or 5 years ago, different story.
Yes, exactly.
All right. So you learn about the fact like, whoa, I could work for this company in Dubai, but live in Egypt. Okay. So that's your first taste of it.
Exactly. And it was like, my mother was like, go do something serious. You're a graduate now. You're not playing. Everyone was surprised. Even me, I was not totally convinced that I'm doing something valuable. Even though I was a user support specialist and I was contacting clients and I was doing something valuable at that time, but I wasn't 100% convinced that this was valuable. I was staying at home and no one else was.
Is that literally the only reason why you didn't know if it was worth it? Because you were working from home?
Yes.
That's so strange. So in order for the work to really count, you have to leave your house, which is again why your friends weren't taking you seriously, because they're like, what are you doing?
Culture, it's mentality.
Wow,
I mean,
so interesting.
It's everyone's mentality. I mean, remote is still new. It's a new concept. It in the US, it might be there from 10 years ago, but in Egypt, it's there after COVID. It was never there before. Sometimes if you are sick, you can work from home, but it's not remote.
Sure. I mean, you say it was already in the US, slim, and for only like software developers, but other positions, no. This year was a massive shift for remote work, which is why I'm so happy to be having this conversation. So, okay, you learn about this company, you learn about this job, but you're like, is this now, did you start working for that company in Dubai?
I started working for that company, but I wasn't convinced that this was real until I just got my first paycheck. And I was like, this is real.
Oh, so you thought maybe, okay, so not that it wasn't valuable necessarily, but
no.
Is it?
I didn't think it was a scam or so. I know it's real, but deep inside,
they get paid. Are they going to follow through?
Yeah, I wasn't aware what will happen. What's going to happen after that. But once I got my first pay check, I was like, I want to do that. I want to be remote. This is for me. I know remote is not for everyone, but it's for me.
Was it because of the money, or was it because of the fact that you were at home and you had your flexibility? Why was it for you?
Flexibility, money, better money. Even with this company, small startup in Emirates, it was also better money than my friends. For flexibility, I used to work. Sorry for that. I used to work in restaurants, in cafes. My schedule was super flexible compared to
you
my friends.
Owned your own cafe.
Yeah.
I always forget that, but it's fun to bring it back. Okay, yeah. So you got a taste of why, and I say a taste because once you start working remotely, it's very hard to go back because you realize, oh my gosh, I can make all this money, work at home, be with my dog, wear whatever clothes I want, work whatever hours I want, maybe depending on the job. Okay, so you got a taste, but you said in the beginning, you found it really hard to get a remote job, but now you're saying you just got this one from Dubai. So
yeah, this one is totally random. Like it was super random, and I was actually fired from this one.
Why?
So I don't know, but I think at this time I didn't understand remote right. I don't know, but I wasn't as responsible as now. I
Okay,
wasn't as, I wasn't as transparent, and I wasn't, let's call it responsible in general. So I
sure.
wasn't as
And
responsible
the,
now.
and the job just kind of landed in your lap, right? It was like you graduated, your friend called and was like, hey, they want people, and you
Exactly.
got the job. Okay, so you got fired,
And
and then what do you do now?
everyone at that time like discouraged me, like, no, just go find a real job. And I found a real job in one of
Oh,
companies in Egypt. Yeah. So yeah, I went from remote to on-site, but it
okay.
was the worst switch I've ever done, and I've regretted that badly. But it's okay.
Okay,
I was
so
like,
then what?
okay, so this is how it happened, really, with Power to Fly. So I was in Jordan in 2014. I met one of my Jordanian friends, and she was working remotely. And I told her, "What are you doing?" And she told me, "I'm working remotely." So at that point, she was one of the talents with Power to Fly. So she worked with the company through Power to Fly, and she was a talent at that point. And she told me, you could work remotely for a good company, and you can get great salaries. You can do that. And then at that point, I applied to be a part of Power to Fly in 2014, and then they called me to join in 2018.
Okay, so what happened in the 4 years between your application and applying? Were you applying to other remote jobs? Were you working? What was going on?
I was working. I was doing many other things in life,
Were
but
you
not work.
looking for remote work?
No, I was just working on site in Egypt.
Had you kind of given up on remote work?
I thought it's maybe not common anymore. It's not trendy. I thought it's not going to be something.
Interesting. So if Power to Fly had never called you 4 years later, which is a whole other story, can of worms we're not going to open or get into. Um, if they hadn't called you though, you probably wouldn't have gotten into remote work.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. So here I was thinking that you were like hunting for remote work and blah, 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 and then Power to Fly landed. Okay. So again, you did. I'm saying you got lucky because what are the odds that 4 years later they were going to call you? But you also did the work by applying. But okay, so they reach out in 2018, and what the heck did you think? Did you even remember the company?
No, I actually when my Jordanian friend told me to apply, she told me to apply as a talent. So Power to Fly contacted me to be a talent. They wanted me to be a talent. At that point, they were contacting, like, doing sourcing and things like that. So they contacted me as a sales person, I guess. I don't know, but to work for another company.
Okay, okay, okay.
And then I told the CEO, no, I want to work for this company. Can I work for this company? And she said, after a few days, she said yes. And it all started here in 20.
Oh, so they had your resume as if you were in the database to place
Yes,
you.
exactly.
Ah, okay. So before we get into what it's actually like to work remotely, I'm curious to know what your perception was. And I don't know if you can speak for anyone else or your friends, but what is the perception or your perception of American companies? Did you want to work for an American company, or were you nervous? Were you happy? Talk to me about that.
Yes, this was and still what I want to do. I want to work for American companies.
Why?
Uh, I don't know why, but I feel that American companies, I don't know how to say that, but I love the way they work. I love the way that American works in general, American people in general. So it all started in 2012 when I was a part of a scholarship that happened in the US, and then in 2013 when I was an internship in the US as well. And I was still undergrad at that time, and I was like, I want to work for American companies. But at that time, I was like, I will relocate to the US.
Okay, so you just wanted to be in the US or be working with America. if you could try to put your finger on it, like what it is in particular, do you know?
I think maybe numbers, stats. Maybe they do not assume. They just, I love that. I don't love assumptions. I
Hmm,
love, and
data.
this is what I love about Americans, about American companies.
I'm only
I know.
laughing. I'm only laughing because it's like, dang, if you look at what's currently going on in the US, and you think
Yeah.
about data and numbers and stats, it's like, do we really care? But you're talking about individual private companies, corporations. It's definitely
Also,
different.
yeah. Also keep in mind that I'm comparing this to Egyptian companies. So this is something to keep in mind as well, because in Egypt it's so random, and I
Mm,
do not. I don't like random work. I love to be
structure.
organized. Yeah, I love tasks. I love timelines. I love things to be organized. This is how I think I'll be most productive.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Now, I know it at Power to Fly, of course, because I worked there as well. We had an international team. It was split all across the board. Granted, it was run by two women who were from the US, so it had that flavor to it, but we had international people. I don't know
Yeah.
what your current company is like in terms of the mix of people from around the world, but what is it like being an Egyptian working for an American company and being remote and not actually, especially now in 2020, it's not like you're coming to the US. Um, so does that feel different or weird? Would you encourage it? Are you learning new stuff? Has it changed your perception of what it means to be a human being in the world? I mean, talk to me about that.
I don't know if that will be strange, but it has changed me. Like, it changed me as Yusra. I have my own culture, like my own desk. Once open my laptop and start working with my friends, either in this or that company, I'm not in Egypt anymore. I'm talking with people from different cultures. I'm talking with people that are super different than me, sometimes in a good way, sometimes in a bad way. It depends on the person, himself or herself, but it's great. Like, I cannot imagine myself being on site again ever. I love working with people from all over the world. It taught me how to treat people in a good way. It
Mm,
taught me how to be patient, and how not to misunderstand anyone, because everyone has his or her own different culture.
mm.
It has changed my mindset. Sometimes I'm now struggling dealing with Egyptians because I'm dealing with them.
Interesting.
Yeah, because for 8 hours to 10 hours a day. I'm on my desk working with Americans and Europeans and other nationalities around the world, and just 1 hour with my Egyptian friends a day. So sometimes I feel like I'm different. I'm now different. It has changed me.
Wow. Ain't that
Yeah.
interesting?
When you travel to a country and after 2 or 3 years, you start noticing that you are different. You are starting to be like those citizens of this country.
Sure.
So it's similar to that.
Okay, so if there's one thing or two things that have really changed or that you now go and see your friends, you're like, oh, I can't believe that I participated in this or was part, like what's changed if you could name any of the things.
Okay. I'm now super transparent, because number one key in remote work is transparency. So I'm now super transparent. Like, when a friend of mine tell me, let's hang out, no, I'm sorry, I'm not available for the next 2 weeks. I was never saying that before, and this has nothing to do with Egyptian culture. Like, here in Egypt, we are super friendly. We say okay, even though we know that we're not going. We say yes. So we are being friendly, but this is not transparency. So I'm being more transparent. Like, I'm not able to do this, I'm not able to do that. If someone asked me a favor that I'm not going to do it for any reason, I say that in full transparency. So this has changed the way I deal with people. Also, I'm being more realistic. Like, don't assume good things, that good things will happen. Let's put things you know, organize things, put facts, and start thinking like that. And this is also not an Egyptian thing at all.
Well, I wonder if that second part you said, like the more realistic thing, is that because of remote work, or is that because of 2020? I don't know.
2020 is an important factor to that. But you know, sometimes when I sit with my friends, they say, oh, COVID is going to end soon, hopefully it's going to end soon, and I'm like, there are no facts that COVID is going to end soon. You know, this is just an example. I just need a fact.
Do you have a different perspective on all of that because you work with all these Americans and Europeans?
Yeah, so compared to Egyptian people are, you know, dreamy, and they are full of hope, and they all the time try to be positive. This is their attitude. Like, this is a culture, regardless of how bad or good this person is. This is a culture. Like, we always say yes, we always say okay, we always say nice.
That is so interesting, because on the surface that seems amazing. Like, why wouldn't you want that? At the end of the day, though, you do want the truth and transparency, and you need to think realistically. I mean, I'm a glass is half full kind of person. You know that about me. At the same time, got to be real and admit, like, okay, we need to work on this or fix whatever it is. So, okay, wow.
I'm not saying that I'm changing positively only. It might be also negatively, you know?
It changed.
So, you know,
yeah, you just said change. You didn't give a tone to it. So
yeah, this transparency in the Egyptian culture is not like a great thing, because now I don't know how to say that in English, but I shock people sometimes, you know? I say things maybe in a harsh way.
Sure, you could take them off guard, or even your friends are like, what? Maybe
yeah.
something.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting though to see, like, okay, you're saying this year is different. Maybe once more Egyptians start working for other companies, maybe that will start to slowly change. Your friends are cool. I don't know. But so let's go down that road. What has happened in 2020? And now, do you know other people that are working remotely? Are they coming to you for advice now? Like, what's changed? Talk to me about that.
Yeah. Yes, that's so funny. So, you know, I told you that 0% of my friends work remotely. Now 100% of my friends are working remotely.
Wow.
Literally the opposite.
Oh my
and they're
God.
like, hi Yousra, where can I buy a home desk? You know, hi Yousra, where can I buy, you know, an additional screen? Hi Yousra, where can I buy this or that? So now they know what's happening, and they apologized, and I accepted. So yeah, no, now they know that it could be doable, and everyone in the world should know that this could be doable.
But is it doable? And by the way, like, good for you. I'm glad that you got that validation, because it is legitimate what you're doing. And I know, because I know like what you were making at Power to Fly, and I know you're making more at your current company. The money is amazing. I mean, you were able to buy a second home for y'all, like a vacation home, and it's incredible. So now that everybody's working remotely, are they working though for Egyptian companies, or did they get new jobs working for American or European companies?
For their same companies, but shifted to remote.
Okay, so the shift is like, okay, we can do our jobs from home because we have to, but are
Yes.
people now looking to up level? Like, are they say, oh, actually remote work is a real thing, maybe I should look at getting a different job at an international like, has that changed at all, or are people still
People are now trying to survive, you know? No, none of my friends is actually thinking of changing jobs. Everyone wants to keep his job, you know, because of the layoffs and things like that. So everyone wants to keep his job. He or she is doing his or her best to like keep the job, to keep everything sustainable until this pandemic and this craziness ends. So yeah.
I'm only pausing because it's like, I get that. Trust me, I get that, because it's the same thing in the US, like plenty of people trying to keep their jobs. And then it's like, but I know that there are these jobs where you could actually be making quadruple your salary even in the US that are remote, and like, why wouldn't you go and apply for those jobs while you have your other ones? Your friends are coming to you asking how to get a desk. Why aren't they coming to you asking how to get a job?
They tried. Some of them tried actually, and some of them applied, but it's not as easy as it looks. That's why I was telling you, it's not as easy as it looks. So 3 or 4 months before leaving Power2Fly, I used to apply. I was trying to apply for jobs, and I was experienced, and my profile really was really good for their requirements, but none of them accepted me because I'm not American.
I was going to say, why do you think that? Okay, so it has to do with, do you think it's specifically like coming from Egypt, or is it just not being in the US and needing sponsorship? Is it country specific, or is it just out of the US specific?
Both. So what, first of all, because if it's not, because I'm not in the US, and this is scary for some recruiters. And the second thing is that I am from Egypt, and Egypt for some people is like, a red flag.
Why?
Because media, Islamophobia, things like that. So some people still think that Middle East and Arab countries are terrorists, things like that. This is normal, especially
especially coming from a US perspective, which I roll my eyes because it drives me crazy, but it's so true, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I'm not so lucky. Not true the assumptions, but true that we have those assumptions.
I know. Yes, for sure. Yes. And I'm so lucky to have worked for two companies. Like the two companies that I've worked for in the US so far, both of them are not like that. But other companies that I was trying to apply to be a part of, they are really like that. Once they know that you are from Egypt, you're done. Thank you. Bye-bye.
You laugh. I don't think it's funny, but what else can we do but laugh about it, I guess? 'Cause it's sad. I mean, that sucks. How do we change that? Is that changing? Do you think that's changed at all with COVID?
In the US, you mean?
Yeah, because I say that because now so many companies are hiring remotely. But maybe it is that they're just hiring from anywhere in the US.
From the US.
So it hasn't changed international hiring at all.
Yes. Look at companies, they just on LinkedIn, they say we shifted to remote. We are now 100% remote. And when you just try to apply for a job and you check the job description and the requirements, you see like US is a must. So yeah. And I don't know why, actually. Like, I really don't understand why.
Okay. So I don't want to go down too negative of a route because clearly it's hard and clearly there's challenges. And we've talked a little bit about why, which is just something that's going to take time to heal and change from. Sure. But somehow you did get this job at this new company. And I know it wasn't from a referral or any, like you got it 100% on your own.
Yes.
For an American company, making way more than you were making before.
Yes.
So you did it. How do you recommend people do it? Because clearly it's possible, Yousra. It's not possible. It's just hard, which we shouldn't stop ourselves from doing something just because it's hard. So how do you do it?
I got this job not from a referral, not from anyone, but this was somewhere between the 120 and 130 applications that I filled out.
Wow.
So this is why I told you.
Perseverance.
Yes. This is the only advice I have for anyone applying for a remote job. Don't give up. It will happen. It will happen, but it's not going to happen like that. It's not as easy as it looks. It needs persistence.
If at first you don't succeed, try again.
Yes. And that will sound like a cliche, but every rejection is a redirection. And I'm really convinced with that.
I love that. Every direction is a redirection. And you know what? As much as we talked about, maybe you're like more realistic or whatever now, you still clearly, and what you just said, are a positive person. Who will, who won't, who's next, right? Like one door closes, find another one. 130 applications, which also goes to show there are plenty of companies out there that are hiring. I know the job market seems slim, and especially now in December the last month of a crazy year where so many jobs were lost, it's still possible. There are plenty of companies hiring remotely.
Still possible. Yes. And you need to stand out. One really quick advice. If you are a salesperson, if you are not a salesperson, just, think of the company that you're applying for as a prospect, as a client. Keep reaching out. Keep saying why do you think you stand out?
I love that you say that. Our background, Yousra's background, is sales. Obviously, that's what she's talking about. Prospects and keep trying. Follow up, follow through. I love it. Now, oh my gosh, I just lost my train of thought. Oh, that's what I was going to ask you. Okay, so we're talking about how, you went from 0% of your friends working remotely to now 100% of your friends working remotely because they had to. Companies had to adopt because of COVID.
Yes.
Are they going to stay working remotely? What do you think is going to happen in the future of work? Is remote really going to take off like we want it to? I know you're really passionate about it, obviously, but what's your thought and opinion on that?
In Egypt, no. So once it's safe, they will go back to their offices, not because they want to, but because the employer themselves are not comfortable that way. Egyptians are not used to working remotely, so they actually remote work for them is a time off. So imagine having a paid time off from March till December.
Oh, so you really don't think that people are working?
Not as much as they used to work in the office.
Which is probably why people didn't take you seriously.
Yes. My friends are sleeping all day, So, or maybe wake up at 11 instead of 8, So, and
so
you know what? Yeah.
Not giving remote work a good reputation.
I'm sorry. I'm being serious, but my friends are not.
No, you have nothing to apologize for. I'm just saying, like, it makes sense that they would go back to in-office if that's the attitude and mentality of remote work.
Yeah, I think remote needs a training. Like, you cannot tell someone who was just in the office yesterday, go remote. It needs the mental training. You need to train yourself that you'll be working, you'll be doing the same amount of work, maybe more, by the way. You'll be accomplishing, you'll be making money, but just one benefit that you'll be doing that from your own home. But otherwise, you'll be doing the exact same thing. This is something that you need to train yourself on mentally before even doing that in real life.
And speaking of training yourself mentally and stuff, I mean, what about the social aspect of it? I say that because I remember visiting you. I mean, you were meeting up with friends every day. I mean, the social thing is huge. The weddings, I mean, they're huge, and you open doors and invite people. And I know that's changed also because of COVID this year, but like, does the lack of appeal to remote work have anything to do with the culture and needing to be social and work with people?
Yes, this might be a reason. People in Egypt are sociable. They love to see other people. They love competition. They love working. I mean, remote, with all its benefits, it's not for everyone in Egypt. Like, we love to work when, we love to work with our friends and colleagues, and I think so. I think it has to do with the social aspect of it.
I don't know that I have any more questions for you, Yousra, about remote work. I just am so inspired by you leading the charge. I mean, leading the charge, changing the perception of remote work for your friends and family in Cairo, changing the perception of Egyptians for all the people that you've worked with at the companies that you work for now. I mean, it's really amazing. And your own perseverance. I don't even know that I would apply to 130. I mean, that's sounds insane to me, and I get it, and I'm so happy that you did it and you're at where you are now. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you want to share about remote work, about the transformation of remote work before 2020 till now, or about anything I didn't ask you about working as a woman? I mean, you tell me.
I don't know. Let me think for a second.
There doesn't have to be.
Doesn't have to be what?
There doesn't have to be anything else. I mean, we covered a lot. Just curious if there was anything else you wanted to share.
I think because we are talking about remote work, I think remote work is amazing, but it's not at this point, it's not amazing because it's because of COVID, you know. So many of the people around the world are just switching to remote because they had to. And I think before switching to remote, before doing that transition, companies should do some extra work to, you know, to mentally train their people to work remotely, to mentally train their people to do that switch, because they weren't remote before. So part of life, for example, other remote companies out there have always been remote, so this is not a problem. But when I'm working for in an office, and then the next day there is a pandemic and I need to work from home, there should be a great training on that: mental training, physical training, technical training, and many other trainings as well, just for this to happen. I think this has to do with Egypt and other countries as well.
Well, I think that you're right, but unfortunately this year there wasn't time to prepare. It was just like, boom, go figure it out. But I think that what you're saying is really important, because if you just make the switch and expect it to just work, it's not. I mean, it's such different way of working, different mindset. And I think you say that because we know how awesome it is, but if it fails, which it very easily can fail if you don't have it set up right, it kills and ruins the reputation. And that's what we don't want to have happen. Because if it is done correctly, there's no looking back. But we can easily prove everybody right in that remote work doesn't work. Right. So yeah.
I personally love working remote, and I think I will be doing the same thing. Like, I'll be working remotely for at least the next 10 years of my life. And after that, if I'll be doing anything other than that, I will be opening my own business.
I was gonna say, then you retire. Yeah, or you open your cafe again.
Yeah. Something like just for other people to come and work remotely in my cafe.
I think that I'm equally excited and nervous about the future of remote work for what you just said, because it's like, yeah, all these companies, everybody's working remote, but is it putting a bad taste in their mouth? Are they almost like against it because they were forced to do it and now they're dying to go back I mean, it's just going to be interesting to see what shakes out. I don't know. I think I'll always and forever be a fan and advocate for remote work, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, hopefully things will end up good. And we can travel more, because one great thing about working remotely is that you can travel and work from anywhere in the world. And now this is not an option anymore. So remote is not as awesome as you know 1 year ago. But yeah.
Well, it is awesome, but for very different reasons. The fact that we can have a job while we're forced to stay at home is pretty cool. If we didn't have Wi-Fi and Slack and all the tools it wouldn't be possible. So I feel really blessed and lucky that we have that opportunity. The travel part of it is totally out of our hands. However, I love the fact, and correct me if I'm wrong, but couldn't you go to the hub and take your computer and work up there if you wanted to be by the beach?
You can do that, but the internet is not reliable everywhere in Egypt. Like, you must stay, just in case.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I thought like, oh, I'm going to go rent a cabin in the mountains so I can be in nature, but it's the same thing. You need Wi-Fi. So it's like, we can travel locally. Like, there's ways to make travel work during these times. But yes, Wi-Fi is the key to remote work for sure.
And especially because I'm talking to clients. So, I'm not just sending emails or doing some administrative work.
You need to stream like this.
Yes, exactly. So I need the internet to be 100% good, and not to ruin the reputation of Egyptian remote workers.
Oh my God. Yeah. Because having a good Wi-Fi connection means something even more.
Yes.
Where you are. Yeah, of course. Golly. All right, Yousra. Well, I would love to end this on a positive note, of course, because I can't not. So, what do you think has been biggest reward that you have gotten from being a remote worker over the past 4 years?
Reward. Um, many, but I'm just thinking of one thing. But
Or the top 2 or 3. I know that's hard to just say one.
yeah, thank you. Great. So I'm being paid really well, which is great. This is not the first reward, but I'm just saying a couple.
Let's just say, you don't have to say how much you're making, but you breaking that $2,000 a month mark that you said is really great if you live in Egypt.
Yes. If my Egyptian
Good
friend,
for you, being 28 years old, a female, earning a salary that you said is beyond the high end in Cairo is amazing.
exactly, yes, it's amazing, and I'm not taking that for granted. It's really great. So I can, if my family needs support, if my mother needs support, I'm helping them out, which was not the case before. So I'm grateful.
Amazing.
Yeah, the second thing is I'm having a great relationship with my husband and my family and my friends, because now I have a flexible schedule. I know how to organize my work. I know how to, organize my schedule. And I'm spending more time with people.
I love that.
I love being around people, and I love spending time with my husband, my dog, my family, my friends. And this is super important for me. If it's not there, I'm not living.
Work-life balance.
Exactly. I'm doing that, which is great. The third and one of the most important things to me is travel. Let's say that again. I love traveling. I started traveling when I was 17 or 18, something like that. I did a semester abroad in the US. And since then, I see myself traveling all the time. So I'm super glad that work is allowing me to do so without taking times off.
Okay. And by the way, speaking of which, you are traveling. Because you said, oh, not
I'm
traveling. You're traveling. Are you, so where are you going?
I'm going to Dubai.
Oh, I'm so jealous and like more excited for you than anything. Are you going to be working?
No.
So you're totally taking time off.
10 days off just to relax. I'm going on my own, my first solo trip ever.
Wow, cool, Yousra.
Yeah, I've traveled like 10 times before, or 12 times, something like that, but none of them was solo. I always had people with me. So this is my first solo trip. And I wanted to try how travel, like how is travel now in times of COVID.
Cannot wait to hear about it. Congratulations. And I know you and how hard you work. I'm sure you could use the time off. And thank you for sharing everything about remote work and your experience. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap this up and end it?
Thank you. I love your podcast. I love that you hosted me today.
I love that you were on.
Yeah, it was amazing. And it's my first time to share my thoughts about remote work, actually, in that great way. So I'm really happy. I'm so grateful to have you in my life. And yeah, let's do that every now and then.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Yousra, and have a wonderful day, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the One World, Your Story podcast. If you enjoyed hearing this story and you wish to hear more, make sure you subscribe to us on iTunes and YouTube, and of course, follow us on Instagram at OneWorldYourStory. From all of us here at the One World, Your Story podcast, we are sending you so much joy and love. Have a wonderful rest of your day.